Video for Assignment 66, Math Lesson 9.4, Areas of Rectangles. In the math message, you were asked to read page 188 of the student reference book. And on this page, it talked about area and what is area. What do we mean when we're talking about area? Now, area is a measure of the surface or region inside a closed boundary. Okay? It's the number of whole and partial unit squares that are needed to cover the area without gaps or overlaps. Okay, now when we measure area, we measure it in square units. They're called square units because we're thinking about how many squares of that unit would it take to completely fill that surface. We might be talking about square centimeters, square inches, square feet, square yards, whatever it is, but we're talking about a 1 by 1 square in that unit. And because of that, when we report areas, we talk about them as inches squared or feet squared, yards squared. It's two-dimensional. We've got one dimension times another dimension. Since it's two-dimensional, we need to have that little exponent 2 after the unit. Now, we're going to be talking about areas of rectangles in this lesson. When you cover a rectangular shape with unit squares, the squares can be arranged into rows. Each row will contain the same number of squares and fractions of squares. Okay, so for example, if we had to find the area of this rectangle here, we can see that we've got 5 squares in a row and 3 rows of 5 squares. Remember when we did those arrays? It's kind of similar there, except for now we've got squares arrangements instead of dots. 3 rows with 5 squares in each row has a total of 15 squares. So our area is 15 square units. We're saying units this time because it didn't tell us if it was centimeters or inches or feet. So if it doesn't tell us what the unit is, we just say units, square units, or units squared. Now, to find the area of a rectangle, you can use either of these formulas. Okay, the area equals the number of squares in one row times the number of rows, like we just did. Or, to think of it another way, it's the length of the base multiplied by the height. We have a formula that we can use to describe this. Now, a formula is like a rule that you use to find a certain kind of answer, okay? So our formula is the one we want to look at is for rectangles here. Okay, this one right here. Rectangles, area formula. Right here it is. Area equals base times height, where your capital A is the area, your lowercase b is the length of a base, and your h is the height of the rectangle. Okay, area equals base times height. Now, I want you to put this in your notebook, okay? And we're going to be keeping several formulas on this page. So you're going to go to your next clean page in your notebook, and at the top of the page, you're going to write area formulas. Okay, that's our topic for today. Now, this formula is for a rectangle. Okay, and remember, squares are rectangles, so it would be a square too. Although, as you can see here, you can think of a square as just taking like the side squared. I mean, the sides are going to be the same length, so it's the side times the side, but it's still length times, or it's still base times height. So in your notes, I want you to put rectangles Okay, got that right here. And you need to put this, area equals base times height. And you need to copy it down exactly as you see it written here. It matters whether it's a capital or a lowercase letter. So make sure you copy them down as you see them. Now I want you, for now, leave the rest of that page blank because we're going to be adding other formulas for area in future lessons. Now that you've got that copied down, let's do some practice. And by the way, feel free to use your calculator for all of this calculating. Usually if you're calculating areas, you'll always be able to use your calculator, which is kind of handy. Alright, so let's find the area of this rectangle. Okay, we're going to use the formula area equals base times height. Now the length of our base, B, is 4 inches. Our height is 3 inches. Okay, so our area is going to equal 4 inches times 3 inches. 4 times 3 is 12. We've got 2 dimensions, inches times inches, so our answer needs to be labeled inches squared, or we can read that as inches squared, or we can read it as square inches. It really doesn't matter, same thing. So the area of the rectangle is 12 inches squared. Now, let's say you had this kind of a problem where you needed to find the area of this room. Now, it's not a perfect rectangle by any means, but we're still going to be using the formula for areas of a rectangle in order to solve this problem. What you have to do in this kind of a situation is basically you have to break it up into pieces so that you can find the area of each section and then add them all together. There's different ways you can break it up, but here's a hint of one way you could break it up. Okay, notice I broke this up into 3 different rectangles that fills that space. Now what I have to do is I have to find the area of each section. Okay, so like I got to find the area of the green rectangle right here. What's the area of that green rectangle? Be careful because you can see that 12 feet down there. I don't want to just say 12 though because that goes all the way across here. So I'm going to use this measurement, 8 feet. So my base is 8 feet long, my height is 6 feet. 8 times 6, should know that off the top of your head, 48. So the green rectangle is 48 feet squared. Now I'm going to find the area of the blue rectangle. Now I can figure out my base here because this was 8 up until this point. And the total thing is 12. So the difference between there is 4 feet. So my base is 4 feet and my height is 4 feet. It's a square, but I still do 4 times 4. So the area of the blue rectangle part is 16 feet squared. Then I need to do the yellow rectangle. I've got a base of 6 feet and a height of 6 feet. So again, it's a square, but I do 6 times 6. And you could be using your calculator, but you don't need to with these basic facts. Then we get 36 feet squared. Now here's where your calculator will really come in handy. In order to find the total area of the whole room, I've got to add those 3 measurements together. So total them up, and what do you get? Our answer is 100 feet squared. Now here are 3 more problems. Now the directions say to find the perimeter and area. we're not going to be worrying about the perimeter right now. You guys know that the perimeter is the distance around the edges, okay, like a fence, but right now we're focusing on the area. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause this video, find the areas for the 3 figures. They're not easy. Actually, we haven't talked about triangles yet, so guess what? We better cross this one off. So only 2 of them, okay? So pause the video and find the areas for these 2 figures, and then resume the video and we'll go over the answers. Okay, so you found the area of this figure here. Now, in some cases, you probably had to do a little bit of guesswork here to figure out like how long this base would be. Because if this is 2.5 and this is 2.5, that makes 5, right? And it's 10 feet all the way across. So from here to here had to be 5 feet. Little things like that, sometimes you have to be kind of like a super sleuth. Now let's see what you got for your answer and if it was right. We're disregarding the perimeter for now. Okay, so did you get 62.5 feet squared? Or maybe 62.5 on your calculator? Excellent. And how about this bottom one here? If I were doing this one, I would have chunked it into rectangles by just kind of going like that. So I know that this rectangle is 6 meters by 0.5 meters. So I'd multiply that and get 3 meters squared for this part. And then this rectangle at the end is 2 meters by 1.2 meters. So I would multiply that and get 2.4. Put them together. Did you get 5.4 meters for your meters squared? Sorry, 5.4 meters squared is your answer. Okay. And if you need a little bit more practice or a little bit more help, go ahead and keep looking in the student reference book. Pages 188, 189 will be especially helpful for you.